She was the ethereal face of mid-2000s R&B, young, enigmatic, and suddenly everywhere. Cassie Ventura's entrance into fame was effortless, her beauty arresting, her music hypnotic. But behind the flawless image was a much darker reality. In 2025, Cassie's name headlines a federal trial against one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop history, Sean "Diddy" Combs. Allegations of abuse, trafficking, and coercion are unraveling a legacy built on billion-dollar beats. But how did Cassie go from the girl next door of Bad Boy Records to the most pivotal witness in a federal sex trafficking case? Let's find out. From rising star to Diddy's shadow, Cassie Ventura was just 19 when the industry took notice. With Filipino and African-American heritage, her beauty was magnetic, her presence uniquely delicate yet strong. It wasn't long before she caught the eye of music producer Ryan Leslie, who quickly signed her and produced the track that would catapult her to fame, Me and You. The single soared. Her face dominated magazine covers, and her minimalist sound defined a new era of cool. Then came Diddy. At first, he was just another industry giant giving her career a push. He brought her under the Bad Boy umbrella, promoted her, walked red carpets with her. Their chemistry was undeniable, but not just musically. Soon, whispers turned to headlines. Diddy and Cassie were an item. And just like that, the teenage dream became an adult entanglement. What the world saw was glamour, but what Cassie lived was something entirely different. Insiders described her as increasingly isolated. Diddy controlled the narrative, the image, even the access to Cassie herself. Over time, her music slowed. Projects were shelved. Her once promising trajectory dimmed under Diddy's spotlight. The woman who had once seemed to float above the industry was suddenly invisible, present only when Combs wanted her to be, and no one asked why. Behind closed doors, a decade of control. For nearly 10 years, Cassie lived in Diddy's orbit. Publicly, they were the on-again, off-again couple who kept the paparazzi guessing. Privately, the truth was far more disturbing. In late 2023, it all began to spill into daylight. Cassie filed a civil lawsuit alleging rape, years of physical abuse, and forced participation in what she called freak-offs. Parties she says she was coerced into, often under the influence of drugs. The details were chilling. Diddy, she claimed, would beat her, surveil her, and manipulate her with both affection and fear. Perhaps the most jarring part wasn't the content, it was the speed. Within 24 hours of the filing, the case was settled. Diddy paid $20 million. No trial, no formal apology, no admission of guilt. The public was left stunned. Some questioned her motives. Others saw the settlement as validation. But for Cassie, the silence was over. That single filing cracked the dam, and suddenly, she wasn't alone. The civil case was only the beginning. The $20 million silence and what came next. What Cassie may not have anticipated was the tidal wave her lawsuit would unleash. In the days following her filing, more than 70 individuals came forward with similar claims against Diddy. The accusations ranged from physical assault to grooming, trafficking, and drug-fueled coercion. Each story added to a portrait not of a flawed man, but of a deeply sinister pattern. Federal authorities began their own investigation. Surveillance footage from 2016, long buried in hotel security archives, surfaced, showing Diddy assaulting Cassie in a Los Angeles hallway. The video was raw, unedited, undeniable. Cassie, attempting to leave, was dragged, thrown, and hit. For many, it was the moment the whispers became roars. By early 2024, Diddy was indicted on multiple federal charges, including trafficking and racketeering. And at the center of it all was Cassie. Now, 8.5 months pregnant with her third child, Cassie walks into a New York courtroom as the government's star witness. No longer a girl in the background, no longer Diddy's mystery muse. Now, she's the woman threatening to dismantle the empire. Inside the trial, Cassie versus Combs. By spring 2025, the trial of Sean "Diddy" Combs had become one of the most closely watched legal sagas in entertainment history. The media dubbed it the Empire on Trial. But inside that courtroom, the glitz was gone. No red carpets, no entourage, just one woman's voice against decades of dominance. Cassie's testimony was direct, detailed, and devastating. She recounted how she was introduced to drugs early in the relationship, not recreationally, but strategically. According to her, Combs used narcotics to destabilize and control. She described being filmed during acts, sometimes without her knowledge, other times at Diddy's command. The phrase freak-offs became a chilling theme throughout the proceedings. Elaborate parties with strangers, drugs, and a constant undercurrent of coercion. At one point, Cassie broke down describing a night she attempted to leave him. She was met with violence, threats, and locked doors. She claimed he told her, "You belong to me." The defense, led by some of the best attorneys money could buy, tried to dismantle her credibility. They showed photos of the couple smiling, vacationing, kissing in public. They pointed to affectionate text messages. "She stayed," they repeated. But the prosecution fired back. Victims often do. Experts on trauma testified that Cassie's behavior was consistent with long-term psychological abuse. She wasn't staying for love, she was surviving. The world watched as the curtain fell on one of music's most powerful names, and the woman he once tried to silence became the most powerful voice in the room. A tidal wave of allegations. Cassie's lawsuit opened a Pandora's box the industry could no longer ignore. After her filing in late 2023, the stories began flooding in. By 2024, more than 70 accusers, both men and women, had come forward with allegations against Diddy. Former staff members, personal assistants, models, and aspiring musicians all painted a picture of a world fueled by fear, secrecy, and submission. One former employee described Diddy's residences as compounds rather than homes. Surveillance cameras watched every move, rooms were off-limits, and visitors were often stripped of their phones. Others detailed being offered drugs at meetings or being pressured into compromising situations to prove loyalty. These weren't just isolated incidents. They were a system. Federal prosecutors began compiling testimonies, linking timelines, and drawing connections between accusers who had never met but told eerily similar stories. The phrase "pattern of predation" emerged in court filings. Cassie's voice had triggered more than outrage. It triggered an avalanche of truth. Meanwhile, Diddy's public persona began to crumble. Endorsements vanished. Projects were canceled. Partners distanced themselves. For years, he had been celebrated as a visionary. But now, he was being painted as the architect of one of the music industry's darkest underworlds. Cassie hadn't just told her story, she had changed the narrative. Motherhood, marriage, and a new beginning. Away from the cameras, away from the courtroom, Cassie Ventura is building something the world can't easily quantify: peace. Since 2019, she has been married to Alex Fine, a former celebrity trainer with no interest in the spotlight, only in protecting his family. Together, they've created a sanctuary of normalcy, far from the chaos of her former life. They have 2 young daughters, and in just weeks, their 3rd child, a boy, will be born. In interviews, Alex has described Cassie as the strongest woman I've ever met. Friends close to the couple say her laughter has returned. She cooks, she writes, she dances in the living room with her kids. Cassie has embraced motherhood as her most vital role. But make no mistake, she is not retreating. She's reclaiming. This phase of her life is not about hiding. It's about living, fully, freely, and without fear. She's launched wellness projects, dipped back into modeling with selective campaigns like Skims, and built a brand rooted in self-love and survival. For someone who once lived under constant control, even a simple morning routine can feel revolutionary. Her wealth today isn't just measured in dollars, it's in choices, autonomy, quiet mornings, safe nights. Cassie Ventura is no longer a product of someone else's power. She is her own force now. Cassie's comeback, fame on her own terms. In the aftermath of public trauma, most fade quietly into anonymity. But Cassie Ventura isn't most people. Instead of running from the spotlight that once consumed her, she's redefining what it means to stand in it. The comeback isn't loud, it's intentional. Cassie has become a symbol of survival, of silence broken, of elegance reclaimed. Her return to public life isn't about chasing charts or flashing labels. It's curated, focused, and deeply personal. Modeling campaigns for Skims and other fashion-forward brands show her in full control, poised, powerful, and unbothered. There's a notable shift. She's not being styled to please. She's presenting herself. She's begun collaborating on mental health initiatives, focusing on trauma recovery, body autonomy, and the quiet strength of healing. On social media, her presence is sparse, thoughtful, a soft photo here, a family moment there. She speaks through action, not attention. What once was a career driven by industry forces has become an expression of liberation. In a world that tried to define her by association, first as Diddy's muse, then his victim, Cassie is rewriting the script. She is no longer the accessory to someone else's empire. She is the architect of her own. And for the first time in over a decade, she doesn't need permission to shine. Luxury, legacy, and the price of truth. Cassie Ventura now lives in a space few women ever reach, after surviving what she has: absolute clarity. Her life today is quiet but lush. From serene Malibu mornings to international family getaways, Cassie's wealth isn't merely financial, it's generational. The $20 million settlement from Diddy may have made headlines, but it's the wealth of peace, health, and safety she holds most dear. Their home, a sprawling estate tucked into Southern California's coastal hills, is a modern sanctuary. Organic textures, minimalist design, and room for her children to roam free. No bodyguards, no secrets, just space to breathe. She has luxury at her fingertips, but no longer uses it to escape. She uses it to restore. And perhaps most importantly, she's building something bigger than herself. In quiet meetings with nonprofit organizations, Cassie is laying the groundwork for a foundation supporting victims of domestic violence and coercive control. She wants to offer what she never had: a lifeline early on. Cassie Ventura's name will forever be linked to a high-profile scandal, but her legacy will not be defined by it. She chose truth over silence, dignity over fear, life over survival. And in doing so, she's become something far rarer than famous. She's become free. Cassie Ventura's journey from industry ingenue to fearless truth-teller is a portrait of power reclaimed. From the shadows of control to the clarity of truth, she's proven that survival is only the beginning. If this story moved you, subscribe for more and share your thoughts below. The world is finally listening.